Alright, we're going to finish reading Tiger Rising now. Chapter 29, starting right here. To Rob, the words sounded like music, but better. His eyes filled up with tears again. He worried that now that he had started crying, he might never stop. That's all I remember, Sistine said after a minute. There's more to it, but I can't remember it all. You say something now, Rob, she said. I don't got nothing to say, said Rob, except for I loved him. Well, said Willie Mae, what I got to say is I ain't had good experiences with animals in a cage. She reached into her dress pocket and took out the wooden bird and bent down and laid it on top of the tiger. That ain't nothing, she said to the tiger. Just a little bird to keep you company. She stepped back, away from the grave. Remember that wooden bird was what Rob had carved her in wood that was like her bird cricket that she lost. Rob's father cleared his throat. He hummed softly, and Rob thought he was going to sing, but instead he shook his head and said, I had to shoot him. I'm sorry, but I had to shoot him. For Rob. Rob leaned into his father, and it felt, for a minute, like his father leaned back. Then Rob picked up his shovel and started covering the tiger with dirt. As he filled the grave, something danced and flickered on his arm. Rob stared at it, wondering what it was, and then he recognized it. It was the sun, showing up in time for another funeral. Remember he said how sunny and bright it was on his mother's funeral. I'm sorry I made you do it, Sistine said to Rob when he was done. He wouldn't be dead if I hadn't made you do it. It's all right, Rob said. I ain't sorry about what I did. We can make a headstone for him, said Sistine, and we can bring flowers and put them on his grave, fresh ones, every day. She slipped her hand into his. I didn't mean what I said before about you being a sissy, and I don't hate you. You're my best friend. The whole way back to the Kentucky Star, Rob held on to Sistine's hand. He marveled at what a small hand it was and how much comfort there was in holding on to it. And he marveled, too, at how different he felt inside, how much lighter, as if he had set something heavy down and walked away from it without bothering to look back. Chapter 30. That night his father sang to Rob as he put the medicine on his legs. He sang the song about mining for gold, the one that he used to sing with Rob's mother. When he was done with the medicine and the song, he cleared his throat and said, Caroline loved that song. Me too, Rob told him. I like it too. His father stood up. You're going to have to tell Beauchamp that you was the one that let that tiger go. Yes, sir, said Rob. I'll tell him I was the one who shot him, but you got to admit to letting him go. Yes, sir, said Rob again. I might could lose my job over it, his father said. I know it, Rob told him, but he wasn't afraid. He thought about Beauchamp shaking hands. Beauchamp was the coward. He knew that now. I thought I would tell him I could work for him to pay for what I done. You can offer him some reasonable kind of solution, said his father, but it don't mean he'll go for it. There ain't no predicting Beauchamp, other than to say he's going to be mad. Rob nodded. And on Monday, his father continued, I'm going to call that principal and tell him you're going back to school. I ain't messing around with taking you to more doctors. You're going back, and that's that. Yes, sir, said Rob. He didn't mind the thought of going back to school. School was where Sistine would be. Remember how he hated school because everyone was so mean to him and he didn't have any friends. But now he has Sistine, so he doesn't mind going back. His father cleared his throat. It's hard for me to talk about your mama. I wouldn't never have believed that I could miss somebody the way I miss her. Saying her name pains me. He bent his head and concentrated on putting the cap on the tube of medicine. But I'll say it for you, he said. I'll try on account of you. Rob looked at his father's hands. They were the hands that held the gun that shot the tiger. They were the hands that put the medicine on his legs. They were the hands that held him when he cried. They were complicated hands, Rob thought. You want some macaroni and cheese for dinner? His father asked, looking back up at Rob. That sounds all right, said Rob. Macaroni and cheese sounds real good. That night, Rob dreamed he and Sistine were standing at the grave of the tiger. They were watching and waiting. He didn't know for what, but then he saw a flutter of green wings, and he understood. It was the wooden bird. Only he wasn't made of wood. He was real. and he flew up out of the tiger's grave, and they chased him, laughing and bumping into each other. They tried to catch him, but they couldn't. The bird flew higher and higher until he disappeared into a sky that looked just like the Sistine ceiling. In his dream, Rob stood and stared up at the sky, admiring all the figures and the colors, watching as the bird disappeared into them. "See," said Sistine, in his dream, "I told you it was like fireworks." He woke up smiling, staring at the ceiling of the motel room. "Guess what?" his father called to him from outside. "What?" said Rob back. "There ain't a cloud in the sky," said his father. "That's what." Rob nodded. He lay in bed and watched the sun smoke its way through his curtain. He thought about Sistine and the tiger he wanted to make for her. He thought about what kind of boy he would use, and how big he would make the tiger. He thought about how happy Sistine would be when she saw it. He laid in bed and considered the future, and outside his window the tiny neon Kentucky star rose and fell, and rose and fell, competing bravely with the light of the morning sun. The end. So we finished Tiger Rising. I hope y'all love that book, because I think that is just one of the best books I've ever read. And I hope y'all enjoyed it. I know it took us a long time to read it, but it's just because we only have 2 days, so I appreciate y'all being so patient. Just remember all the way back to the beginning how Rob, he was so scared, he didn't talk to anybody, he hated school. Now he doesn't even mind going back to school. He has a best friend. Sistine hated it in Lister, Florida. She wanted to leave. Now she loves it. So just think about what a happy ending this is, even though the tiger has died, but it has just given Rob such a huge relief. He doesn't have the responsibility of the tiger anymore, and his father was only protecting him. So this made him and his father even closer, him and Sistine closer, him and Willie Mae, and I can guarantee you that when Rob goes back to school on Monday, that Billy and Norton Threemonger will not be messing with Rob. So let's look at Rob's character traits. Alright, this is character traits. Remember we started talking about character traits in our narratives for writing, and we talked about, some internal characteristics and some external characteristics. So today, what we were going to do in class, in our Zoom, is to do this character trait together for Rob, and then your assignment for independent work would be for you to do it for Sistine. So I'm going to kind of do this with you as you're watching this. So the story would be Tiger Rising, and our character would be Rob. So what you do is you come up with your first trait. So the first trait I can think of Rob is that he is honest. Okay? Now how I know Rob is honest, I have to have evidence from the text. So I need to have some kind of evidence from this story that shows that Rob is honest. So Rob is honest when he tells Sistine that her dad is not coming to get her. Okay? So I'll make this a little bigger so that you can all read it. But we know that Rob is honest. He is telling Sistine, your dad is not coming back. You can keep believing it all you want, but she's not coming back. Okay? So that would be one trait of Rob. Now I want you to think of another trait that Rob might have. What is another trait of Rob that you can think of? I want you to think about Rob all the way from the beginning of the story to the end of the story, how Rob changes from a shy little boy who lets the bullies hit him into the end where he is so strong and he has a best friend. So another trait would be that he's a good friend, okay? He's always looking out for Sistine, even before he even really knows her. So the first evidence would be that he doesn't even really know her. He sticks up for Sistine when she gets in the fight at school. He barely even knows this girl. She was just on the bus with him, and that was it. And she was kind of rude. So he doesn't even really know Sistine, and he's already sticking up for her. So that goes to show you that he's a good friend, and he doesn't even really know her yet, okay? So our third trait of Rob. Just think about Rob. Think about all the things that Rob did. He was responsible, okay? He took care of the tiger and fed him for Beauchamp. Beauchamp trusted him and knew that he was responsible enough to take care of that tiger. Okay? And then I have a fourth trait. So let me think about another trait that Rob has that I can show evidence from the text. Let's think. What could it be that Rob is what? What is Rob? I want you to think about it. What is Rob? What is a character trait to describe Rob? What do you think? What about caring? He has a caring heart. One way I know this is that he carves Willie Mae's bird, cricket, for her to have. He knows how much that bird meant to Willie Mae, and he is caring enough to create this bird for her. Okay? I think it's Willie Mae. Alright? So these are some character traits of Rob. We are using evidence from the text when he was using this trait. I will post this on your Google Classroom because this is what we were supposed to do together this morning. And your assignment, one of your assignments for today is to do the same thing that you will be doing it for Sistine. And I've already put Sistine's name in there, okay? Alright, and then we're going to talk about what is a theme, alright? So, there are themes in stories. A theme is a central topic or idea of a story. A story can have one or more themes. Some examples of themes are acceptance, cooperation, bravery, and determination. What do you think one theme of the Tiger Rising is? So one theme in the Tiger Rising. What do you think? What do you think one theme of Tiger Rising is? What do you think? For me, I think that one theme, and there are more than one theme in Tiger Rising, but one of them that stands out to me is friendship. Okay? So friendship. Friendship is all throughout Tiger Rising. Now it says to find 3 examples from the book that supports this as one of the themes. Okay? So, first, Rob sticks up for Sistine when she gets in the fight. This is before he really even likes Sistine. He isn't sure why he's sticking up for her. Okay, another thing to show friendship would be that Rob is honest to Sistine about her daddy coming. He cares enough about her to tell her the truth. Okay? He doesn't want her getting her feelings hurt and getting her hopes up that her dad's not coming. So that shows how good of a friend he is, that he cares that much about her. Okay? And then at the end, Rob cares enough about Sistine and what she wants that he decides to let the tiger go after all. He does it for Sistine. So all throughout this story, it has a theme of friendship. It's all about friendship, and Rob and Sistine are building that friendship, okay? My time is about to end for this video. I know it's long, but this is just how I'm going to have to do it for today because Zoom is still not working. So this will be part 2 of your lesson for Monday.